hold on, my eyes are getting watery because he's so hot. Like, hi friends, it's me again. Welcome to October's reading wrap up, even though I am posting this in November. But I am staying on top of my videos, so everyone be very proud of me because I've been way more motivated than I have been in the past year. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. I read 9 books in October and I found a couple of my favorite reads ever. So it's very exciting and yeah. Talk about them. So the first book I read in October was An Arc of Madam by Sarah Kate. This is the last book officially in the Salacious Players Club series, and if you've been here for a while, you know that I've been reading that series as if my life depends on it. Like with every new release, I'm always there. We finally got Eden's story, which I was super excited for because I've been obsessed with her, just reading this entire series, and I've wanted her book for so long. I was not expecting it to go this way. Like the first chapter completely took me off guard. So this story follows Eden, Jade, and Clay. It is FFM, which I think is my first FFM book. Yeah, basically Eden falls in love with Clay, who is her client, and it doesn't end well. I think one day Jade and Clay end up running into Eden in like a grocery store or something. I don't know, something random. Oh no, they were at the movie theater. That's what it was. Okay. But he sees that she has a completely different life outside of Salacious Players Club and why they kind of couldn't be in a legitimate relationship. Jade can obviously see the chemistry between them, so now she's interested. She ends up going to Eden to try to learn how to be more of a dom because she doesn't want Clay to miss that because she's learning about his sexual desires as well. It's a whole big thing. Jade asks Eden to like participate in one of their sexy times, so it's kind of all over the place. I will say I did enjoy getting more of Eden's background, and I love seeing her outside of sex work, like just seeing her everyday day-to-day life. I loved it so much, just seeing more of the real Eden. I did kind of struggle with the FM relationship in this because I am a big believer that if you're going to do FFM, I kind of want the two main female characters to know that they like women, if that makes sense. In this book, Jade is exploring her sexuality because her entire life she's been straight, which is okay. But sometimes it just came across as Jade wanting to get with Eden to please Clay, which I didn't really like. Like I just don't like that about certain FFM books. Like if these two girls like each other, let them like each other without even thinking about the guy. Like who fucking cares if he's here, right? At the beginning, it did feel like Jade was doing this just to impress Clay, and I did not like that at all. It kind of but I'm glad the talks of sex and sexuality and creating a safe space was very prevalent in this book. I always look for that when it's such like a sex heavy book. So I did like it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but there were some things where I'm like, the development kind of just didn't really do much for me. It felt very insta-lovey, insta-lusty. But for the last book in the Salacious Players Club, I think it did pretty okay. So that was Madam. So the next book I picked up was Book Lovers. I did this as a reread on audio. Y'all know People is my favorite Emily Henry book of all time, and nothing has topped that yet. But I think Book Lovers, I don't want to say it beats out Beach Read for me because Beach Read is such a beautiful book in its own right, but they're kind of tied for second place. Like I can never really pick between which book I love just because Book Lovers hits me in such a different way. Book Lovers follows Charlie and Nora. I think Nora is a literary agent or something and Charlie is an editor, and they kind of have like, it's not like a grumpy sunshine situation. They're very much both the same. That's one thing I really do love about this book, is that Nora and Charlie have so much in common, and at first it came across as them hating each other just because they were basically the same person. Nora's little sister Libby, who she has basically raised her entire life, is a big fan of one of the books that Nora is over. So Libby wants to take a small vacation in the town that was mentioned in that book, and lo and behold, it's where Charlie is originally from, his hometown. So, and Nora starts to understand more about herself and her wants just because her entire life she's taken care of Libby and made sure that Libby was okay. So she had to make sacrifices in her career, and Charlie is able to kind of help her see that Libby is okay. Libby is a grown woman. She has a husband, she has kids. Like it's time for Nora to take care of herself now, which always gets me. I love this so much as a re-listen on audio. It's narrated by Julia Whalen, who is phenomenal. If you haven't read Book Lovers, please do. I also listened to The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This one was so cute and it caught me by surprise how much I ended up really liking it. You have Clementine, who is also, I think she also works in the book world or something. Let me look at my notes. Her aunt, who she was super close with, ends up passing away, so she decides to kind of spend more time in her aunt's apartment, and her aunt has always said that her apartment is magical. It isn't until one day Clementine goes into the apartment and she finds someone in her kitchen. His name is Ewan. He wants to be a chef, and there they kind of have like a temporary roomie situation, but then Clementine also notices that he is from 7 years in the past. It gets kind of wonky. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of struggle with the whole timing of this story because you have past Iwan and present Iwan. You're following Clementine getting to know past Iwan while also finding him in the present, and he's obviously a little bit different. And I do wish I kind of eyeballed it so that certain scenes would hit me a bit harder because it is a story about grief. I liked it. I thought it was really cute. The audio was very, very good. I didn't cry like I expected to, but that goes back to me wishing that I eyeballed it. I really do appreciate that it was a very unique kind of story and setting. So yeah, I think I give this one 4 stars. So next up, I read Caught Up by Liz Tom Ford. Y'all know that The Right Move is one of my favorite books of all time. I think I read that in like February or March of this year, but I was obsessed. I still am obsessed. Like, Ryan Shea is one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. Indy Ivers, I love her to pieces. Like, one of the best FMCs out there, honestly. When I heard whose story was coming in Caught Up, I was so excited. There's so much in here that just worked well. Basically, you have Kai, who is a single dad and also a pitcher for the baseball team in this book. I forgot what they're called. I forgot the team's name, but he's fucking good. He's talented and he has glasses and he's very hot. Kai is struggling to keep a nanny because he is very protective of his son, as he should, like the good father that he is. Oh, hold on, my eyes are getting watery because he's so hot. Like, because Kai is going through nannies so freaking fast and he is firing everyone, his coach is kind of fed up with it, and he offers up his daughter Miller to watch Kai while the team is traveling and they're playing. Miller, my queen, she is like a world-renowned pastry chef, but she is finding that she's not as passionate about it. She's a little stumped, she's not as focused, and she's just trying to really get back to being the pastry chef that she once was. So she decides to take a break, take the summer off, and go hang out with her dad because she never really sees him. Kai is instantly not about it because Miller is this fun, carefree firecracker of a baddie. And they also end up developing feelings for each other, obviously, but it gets complicated because Miller has spent her entire life basically running because she feels like she owes her dad for everything because he sacrificed so much to adopt her, and she wants to seem worthy of such a big sacrifice. And it was just so sad. On one hand, I'm like, Miller, I get it, bestie, I understand, but stop running away. Like, your dad loves you so fucking much. So that gets very tricky when you go into Kai and Miller's relationship because obviously she doesn't plan on staying after the summer, and Kai is a one-woman kind of man, okay? He's not trying to have a summer fling. He wants to wife her up, as he should. I really, really enjoyed this book. Like, Kai was so sweet and Miller was so funny, and their banter together was so good. And the way that she cared about Kai's son, Max, like, they were the cutest little family ever. I did kind of struggle with the whole like third act thing in this, like her leaving, because in my head I knew exactly how it was gonna pan out. Like, it just made sense for her to stay. You know what I'm saying? The relationship development between Kai and Miller also got a little wonky for me because it started out more of like a friends with benefits sort of thing, and I just kind of wanted it to go a bit differently. But besides that, I think it was such a cutesy good book. Like, seeing the characters from the past books in this made me just blush and scream and kick, and I love them. Like, these characters are taking up such a big part of my heart, and I love getting to that point in a series where you kind of see the found family form or whatever. So I got that a lot in this, and I am so excited for the next book. And big shout out to Liz for sending this to me because I didn't even realize she signed it until a couple days ago. So I love that woman. I love this series. It was phenomenal. Next up, I read Grimstone by Queen Sophie Lark. This one had spooky season vibes, which I was all for because I know spooky season is my time to shine. Basically, the story follows Remy and Dane. Remy inherits her late uncle's mansion, so she is trying to renovate that, and there she meets Dane, who is like the town's doctor slash outcast because the whole town thinks that he murdered his wife and kid. So it's a whole big scary kind of plot, a whole mystery, if you will. There are points in this book where Dane like hypnotizes Remy and she doesn't remember what happened, and then she's also thinking someone broke into her house, and obviously she thinks it's Dane, like the next door neighbor. And there's just all this talk in this creepy town about Dane and why he's so weird and he never goes out in the daylight. Like, it's I don't even know how to really sell this book because I'm still kind of grasping what happened. It was fine, I will say. The ending I saw from a mile away, and that's why I feel like I never really want to dive into like a mystery kind of book, because 9 times out of 10 I'm going to guess the ending, and by that time I'm not like I'm not shocked, like I already knew. So That happened to me in this one. I already knew who the culprit was just based on the vibe. So I was like, yeah, it was cutesy. It was fine. A good Halloween book. I did give it 3 stars though, so I'm so sorry. But it did what it needed to do. A very fun, spooky time. So yeah. Next up, I listened to Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, and you guys, this is one of my favorite books of all time now. This story follows Emma and Elliot. Emma is a wedding planner and Elliot is a florist, and it's told in past present point of view. In the past, you get Elliot's point of view, like when they actually started dating, and then in the present, they're clearly not dating anymore. We're trying to figure out why, figure out what happened. Personally, I love past and present timelines. Obviously, it depends on how it's written in the story, but in this one, I think it worked very well, and I really liked getting his POV in the past and then hers in the present. Like, it just flowed very well to me. In the past, they met because of a wedding that Emma was helping plan, and they started to form like a friendship with benefits kind of thing, but Emma didn't want more. And I think that's been like a good trend for me with books, like getting the women who don't want to settle or don't want a relationship. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do friends with benefits, we're gonna have lots of hot sex, but boyfriend, girlfriend, no. Then in the present, I think it's like 2 or 3 years that they've seen each other at that point. She comes back because now she's over her own wedding planner kind of company. She runs into Elliot, who's like the best florist out there now, and they have to work together, which gives me all the angst I love, like exes working together. Ugh, I love it. Also, it was so hot. The spice in this, I was taken aback. Like, I was not expecting that. Like, they were hot as hell. So I really enjoyed this one. I think you guys should definitely pick it up because it's one of my favorites this year for sure. Next up, I read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young, which I was super excited for. I feel like I talked about this book so much leading up to it just because it is an accidental pregnancy book. This book follows Bo and Wynn. They meet on Halloween and they have a one-night stand, and a couple weeks later Wynn finds out that she is pregnant. Both Bo and Wynn have limb differences. So she has an underdeveloped hand and he is an amputee. He has a little prosthetic, and I think this cover is so fucking beautiful. Like, I will never ever get over it. We're basically following both of these two people cope with learning how to be parents. There's forced proximity because Wynn ends up moving in with Bo. Bo is way more established in his wealth than Wynn is, so there's a lot of talk about finances, which I really did appreciate, because sometimes in the past when I would read accidental pregnancy books, I'm like, so you two aren't concerned about anything? And that's why compatibility gets very hard for me with accidental pregnancy books too, because I'm like, you literally know nothing about each other and you have to bring a child into this world, and no one seems stressed about that. Personally, it stresses me out. This one was very low angst, I will say. I did not feel super stressed or scared reading this. I thought it was a very sweet story about these two characters who always wanted to be parents, by the way. I think that is important to note. I gave this one 4 stars. I will say some parts in this did drag out a bit because of how low angst it was. I'm also understanding that beggars can't be choosers, and I wanted a low angst kind of accidental pregnancy book, so I'm just accepting it for what it was. I was a little bummed at the end of the book because like this whole thing is leading up to a baby being born, and I think we only got that on like a page. It just kind of went, oh, the baby was born on this day, and then you flip the page and it was the epilogue, and I was like, okay. So I didn't really like that. It felt a little rushed. We're not only dealing with accidental pregnancy, but we're going on a journey with Wynn and Bo coping with learning how to be parents while also having limb differences. And that's another thing that I wish was a little more explored in this. Wynn was born with her limb difference, but Bo was kind of a recent amputee. Like, he went most of his adult life being fully able-bodied, and then suddenly something tragic happened and now he uses a prosthetic. And I feel like that wasn't really explored as much as I wanted it to be. It was just kind of like, oh, he had this, it made him sad, but he's okay now. Like, I just wanted a bit more development in certain areas and then a bit less of an everyday kind of life in others. Like, I don't know. I read a chapter about them playing Dungeons and Dragons, and while it was cute, I'm like, we could have spent this time learning how he coped with losing a leg, you know? But that's just me. It was cute. It did what it needs to do. So yeah. I read and listened to Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I did get an ARC, so thank you, Bessie, for sending it to me. This is the first book in her new series, which I think is the Lakefront Billionaire series, so there are more billionaires. I'm so excited. We're following Dahlia and Julian. Their families are really close, and growing up they've always just had this constant beef with each other, like always trying to outbeat the other person. They're very competitive, which I did enjoy. It was very cute. So Dahlia was engaged and it got broken off in a very horrible, traumatic way, and the guy was a complete asshole. She comes home for a minute. She is very depressed. Julian is also there, obviously, and they are instantly butting heads, arguing, but he also notices that something is off with her. In an effort to make her feel better, they decide to renovate this historical home. In this book, you also learn that they have a bit of a past, like they were kind of starting to form something, but then something tragic happened to Julian, so they never really fully gave into it. I thought this was a very, very sweet book. I cannot wait for you guys to get your hands on it. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I hope you guys love it. Like, Lauren kind of did her thing with this one, and the cover is stunning. It's so fucking good. And then the last book I listened to was Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This book also has a girl in it named Clementine. I forgot to even mention that. In the 7-year slip, he calls her Lemon. Like, that's her nickname. In Done and Dusted, her name is Clementine, but she goes by Emmy. So I just think it's cute that authors are playing with nicknames, but whatever. So Emmy is a barrel racer, but she gets into a bit of an accident that really freaks her out a bit. So she decides to go back home, try to regroup, and there she runs into Luke Brooks, who is the town's playboy, bad boy, infamous hottie or whatever. And Luke is Emmy's older brother's best friend. So they have a history as well. Emmy's family also kind of took in Luke when they were growing up as well, because he had a bit of a harder family life. So she's very familiar with him, but since she's been away for so long, obviously she comes back and he's like, whoa. They both realize they're attracted to each other, and also he wants to help her get back on the horse, literally. So he spends time helping her learn how to ride again, and she is kind of keeping her accident a secret from her family. You really get to see Emmy open up a lot to Luke, and they were very cute. This book is kind of short, and I did feel like their relationship happened out of nowhere, like no development. Not enough development for me personally. Like, it went from her loathing him to her suddenly being so in love, and vice versa. I had fun with this one though. Like, I really liked it. I think I gave it 3.5. As a debut, I think it was pretty solid. I'm excited, very, very excited for the next book that comes out. So there you have it. Those are the 9 books that I read in October. I had fun. I had a lot of fun this month. If you liked any of these books, please let me know so we can gush about it, because I am obsessed. Thanks for hanging out, besties. As usual, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Mwah.